From the book of short stories written by Philip J. Bradbury, this is a true story titled The Far Flung Pan, read by Philip J. Bradbury. My little 6-year-old mind didn't understand what the yelling was about, but my eyes could see my father turning red, thumping the table and yelling ferociously, belligerently. They could also see my mother's pleading cries, her bowed head, her sad eyes. Stuck in the middle, I forced my body to stay as still as it could. I even tried to stop breathing and probably did for long moments. I tried to pretend I wasn't there so they wouldn't notice and turn on me. "Oh, John, why can't we just have—" seeched my mother till she was interrupted. "Because I bloody well said so and that's it," said my father, his voice then going quiet and icy as he stormed out. I heard him thumping around in the porch, putting on his boots and then stamping out to the dog kennels. I dared look up for a second and saw him storming off with the 5 dogs trotting behind him, all happy to be out of their kennels, their smiles at odds with my father's thundering scowl. "It's okay, Philip, you're okay," said Mum, trying to reassure me as she wiped her eyes. I wanted to help her and wanted to run at the same time. I waited. She sat, alternately staring out the window and smiling wanly at me. I didn't move, not wanting to do the wrong thing, whatever that was. Life, as we know, abhors a vacuum. When gentle, tiny sorrow leaves a room, her wild, bumptious brothers, rage and vengeance, crash in to fill the space. After what seemed a lifetime, in my little life, Mum suddenly looked up, squared her chin and muttered something about getting him back one day. "Come on, no point moping," she said, standing up. "Let's get the jobs done and we'll have our own fun, shall we?" "Okay," I said, unsure of what fun she meant in this most unfun moment. We cleared the table, stacked the dishes, ready to wash them, and she suddenly announced that she needed to get outside for some air. I thought there was air in the house, but what did I know? We fed the chooks, collected the eggs, watered the vegetable garden, picked peas and carrots and potted about outside till she decided she'd had enough air. Time to finish the dishes. By now, Dad must have been gone for a couple of hours, and I was still uneasy. She seemed to have forgotten the fight, but I hadn't, and feared he'd return any moment to escalate it. However, I dried the dishes she was washing and put them away. Then I heard his footsteps. "Is that Dad?" I asked, ready to run. "He's early for morning tea, but it must be him," she said, looking at me, puzzled. His routine was legend, and he seldom varied it. "Perhaps he wants to say sorry," I ventured, hopefully. "Sorry," she demanded. "I'll give him sorry." By now she was on the last of the dishes, the large roasting pan. She scooped the pan full of cold, dirty, fatty water and stood there, braced. She timed her performance to the split second and waited with the heavy grease and water-filled pan weighing heavily in her arms. At the precise moment that we imagined he'd be reaching for the doorknob, she lunged. Mung swung the door open and let him have it. The pan slipped, and so he got rancid water and a pan on the head. "There, that'll serve you right," she said, trailing off. "Well, that's a nice welcome, Mrs. Bradbury," said a strange voice. I had to see who it was, looked around and saw Lionel, the local stock agent, standing there with a smile, dripping clothes and a pan at his feet while he rubbed his sore head. At that moment, Dad appeared. He stopped and frowned. Then he summed it up and laughed the loudest I've ever heard him laugh. The other two soon joined in, and I did, as relief flooded over me. As far as I knew, that day's argument wasn't resolved. It was simply heaped onto a growing pile of resentments to be used as fuel for next week's argument. However, the story of the Far Flung Pan is talked about far and wide and is still whispered to children in dark moments to raise a smile, to warn of the rages of sin, and to look before you leap. That was a short story titled The Far Flung Pan, written and read by Philip J. Bradbury.